So it's my great pleasure to introduce Martin Duplessis, who's the director of the Bureau of Microbial Hazards with Health Canada, which works to minimize public health risks from the consumption of food contaminated with bacterial, parasitic, viral, and prion disease agents, and oversees microbiology evaluation and microbiology research at Health Canada. So please, a warm round of applause for Martin.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to be here. So and thanks for the kind introduction. So I'm really pleased to be here. It's my first time in this meeting, and it's really a pleasure. And I've been learning a lot yesterday, so this is why I'm quite glad to be here. And to talk about Health Canada's priorities. So I'm the director of I would tell a bit about me. So I'm a food microbiologist. I've been with Health Canada since 2007 in different roles in emergency response, always in food, but for 2 years I work also in non-prescription drugs and natural health products for 2 years, which was also quite an interesting experience as well, so within Health Canada. So today I'll be talking about some of our key priorities. And so I'll talk about the Health Canada's role and maybe differentiate with also the CFIA and the Public Health Agency of Canada. I'll talk about some trends and challenges quickly because you are quite an informed crowd on topic of food safety, and how Health Canada is responding to these challenges and some of our key priorities and activities. So I'm starting with this slide, but you're an informed crowd, so you already know that, but I just want to reiterate that the importance of the work and acknowledge the importance of the work that you're doing, because food safety is the shared responsibility in Canada, and we all contribute, government, different levels of government, industry, and consumer. I'll come back to the consumers later on in my presentation, but all together, we make sure that the food that we eat in Canada is safe, and we have one of the best food safety systems in Canada is because of the work that you're doing every day. So I just want to acknowledge that. And this slide is also to reiterate the importance of all of us collaborating together, and this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here to learn, to exchange, listen to you, and this is super important. Just want to introduce a small change or significant change in our organization. So I work for Health Canada in the health products and food branch. And within the health products and food branch, you have lots of the drug vaccine approval, but also we have the food directorate. But on April 1st, we changed our name for Food and Nutrition Directorate because the Office of Nutrition Policy and Promotion within Health Canada is the group responsible for the food guide, just merged with us. And now they became a bureau within our organizations, the Healthy Eating Policy and Promotion Bureau within the Food and Nutrition Directorate. So this is quite a kind of a natural match to work because we've been working with this group for many years, and the merger is just to streamline our activities, but the same work, the same engagement, nothing is really changing in terms of mandates or roles. So what are our key roles at Health Canada? So we are mainly responsible to establishing food safety and nutrition policies and standards. So we set the standards, policies, guidelines, provide advice to Canadians, and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency are doing enforcement on the food side of those policies and standards. We conduct pre-market assessments for novel food, infant formula, and food additives. These are the 3 areas where there's a mandatory pre-market assessment scheme at Health Canada. We also conduct health risk assessments in support for food safety investigations. So upon request from the CFIA, we receive a request. We send a level of risk to a situation, and we send this back to CFIA, and CFIA decide the level of recall or that it will initiate based on our risk assessment. And another part is also consumer education and outreach, providing risk communication advice for Canadians is one of the key roles of Health Canada. And I'll talk a bit more later on this. But all these key roles are supported by science. We have science-based organizations, and we have research labs and surveillance program that really informs the work that we do in policy. So everything that we do is science-based, it's super important, and we need to engage with everybody, and data is also critical for our work. So some trends and challenges quickly that we are seeing. So we see a shift in the population for sure in terms of millennials, and this can change the way people are consuming products, the way you're marketing food products, the multicultural population, the number of vulnerable people in Canada is increasing. You have more immunocompromised people, which is kind of also, in terms of communication, it caused some challenges as well. And we did some public opinion research, and sometimes even pregnant women, pregnant people, they don't consider themselves as vulnerable. So, and this is also a challenge for us in terms of risk communication. So in terms of the perception, even of this vulnerable group in seeing themselves as vulnerable. Food as a health product, like superfood, this is why the supplemented food framework was created to address some of these new products, or healthy products. The other trend is really like this consumer seeking convenience and buying more ready-to-eat foods or minimally processed foods or food kits. Or yesterday, like we heard about this homemade products as well. So this is also part of this trend. Lots of new ingredients, new products. We heard about plant-based alternatives yesterday. I will talk about cellular agriculture. And the rising prices. For sure, food waste become extremely important as a regulator, and food safety. We're reflecting a lot about our advice to Canadians. We need to balance the food safety advice, like let's say for leftovers. We need to balance this with the food waste as well. So what makes sense? And again, basing this on science. And even recently, like there was a report from the Food Standards Agency in the UK reporting that an increase in risky food safety behaviors for financial reasons, like people keeping leftovers longer, or like eating foods like way beyond their best before dates, et cetera, et cetera. So this is something that we've seen. In terms of challenges, you have the old challenges and the new ones. We're still facing with the same issues, and foodborne pathogens is the same classic one, Salmonella, Listeria, but sometimes we find them in different commodities. Like we heard yesterday about the enoki mushrooms. We're quite involved as well with the enoki mushrooms because you have a product that is usually cooked where they're produced, but imported, like and now promoted here in Canada that is being like eat raw on salad and stuff like that. So that change sometimes from one country to another, and the way the food is used, is creating some challenges. Climate change, obviously, we already see some impact of climate change, like Vibrio species moving up north because the waters are warmer. We have a parasitologist in our group like that is finding parasites in fish up north in Quebec and Nunavik. So like we can see already like these changes. The advancement in science and technology, like gene editing, you have different technologies, you have different innovation in packaging, and as a regulator, we have to face all those new products and complexity and like with outdated regulations. So this is always, we try to find as much flexibility in our regulations that we can to face those challenges. So how do we respond to this? So four themes I will discuss. So the regulatory modernization work that we have been doing, the international collaboration, so we need to strengthen really like and work with our partners internationally, research and surveillance, and also like updating our policy. So this is changing there, but not on the screen. So is it just to adjust the slide, please? Well, I'll keep going, but. So I don't have jokes. I'm not super good at jokes. I don't have this piece in my memory like on jokes. So just wait for the slide because I think the slide would be important to have. So
we have an extra couple minutes.
yeah, it's okay. That's all good. Any stories? Do you want me to? Perfect. 2 minutes. Okay. Do I have a story? I can show you something because it's David from yesterday. For people who were there yesterday with the little elephant and the blueberry elephant. So I just want to show you something because while we're waiting, so I just want to introduce you to small dog or Petit Chien. So Petit Chien has been traveling with me since 2016. So just want to so David, it may not be a one-time deal. So if you do this, So, but I can tell you that from 2016 to now is traveling, but is less active than the first time he traveled for sure. So, but yeah, a story like I'm involved at Codex, and we just traveled in Africa in Nairobi. We had a meeting in March, and he came with me. And so we saw elephants and stuff like that. But the amazing thing when you travel, like we went in the Mbosoli like national park. So I was taking a picture of Petit Chien with elephants in the background, and I was looking at my phone and I saw like 5G. I said, "Oh, I have a 5G coverage in the middle of the national park, and if like an hour north of Gatineau or Ottawa, you don't even have like cell phone coverage." So that was kind of an interesting. I could text my wife and my daughter to send a picture live from the national park. So this was the story. But anyway, so this is the story of the Petit Chien traveling with me. So, but every time my daughter is looking at me and said, "Don't lose it. It's important. Like it's important." So, but she's 11 now, but still like enjoyed giving it to me. It's like my lucky charm, I guess, when I travel. So, so yeah, this is the story of Petit Chien. So. Huh? Yeah, maybe we can do a date with Blueberry and just like have a. Yeah. So maybe we do the selfie. That's what you just said. So my daughter will be surprised because she hasn't seen this. So anyway, let's do the same thing as yesterday. So why not? So while waiting, camera. Okay, let's do this. So you have to wave again. Just let's turn this on. Okay, great. We'll put this on the website. No. What is this? What these guys are talking about? I think we're. Yeah.
Could you talk about collaboration with international parties a little more? Expand on
Yeah, I have a slide on this, but I can go to this. In terms of international collaboration, so we are in close collaboration with at least like on a regular basis with. That's it. So let's go with regulatory modernization first, and after we'll come with the international. So maybe you're aware that last spring we published in CG1 the Canada Gazette Part 1. I will try to make sure that the acronyms, to not use too much acronyms. So we published regulations to amend the regulations. So it's to really amend some parts of the regulation, of the food and drug regulations, to really fix some issues, I would say, and like duplications, outdated reference to methods and microbiological criteria. So this is kind of a cleanup. So we are not changing the rules, but we are doing a cleanup on some parts of the food and drug regulations. In addition to touching to the compositional standards, the number 2 is where my team has been quite involved, is really on the microbiological criteria and methods, because lots of outdated methods and microcriteria are in the regulation. So the purpose of the change in the regulation is really to modernize and give us the tool to really be able to be nimble and agile. So by creating IBR, incorporation by reference. So we're creating those IBR documents. So these documents will be referenced in the regulation. So it has a regulatory power, but it's also just easier for us to update. So we'll have a new IBR documents that will be created when after the Canada Gazette Part 2 publication. And once this tool is created, my team is currently working on updating the microcriteria. So once the tool exists, we'll do a consultation on these new microbiological criteria and reference methods, so stay tuned for that. So maybe in a year when we are going to CG2, we're getting to get ready for this. And also, like this touched also on the food additive framework for the modernization. So if you have more questions, let us know. But we are going through the comments right now that we received from the consultation. The other regulatory initiative that are underway or prioritized within the Food Directorate was the marketing authorizations for vitamin D, the expansion for the exemption for the dairy-related exemptions for front of pack. Another big piece is the marketing to kid file, so the restriction of advertisement of certain food for children under 13. So the big regulatory project right now that is our colleagues are pushing hard to cross the finish line to go to CG1. We don't know, like in June. So, but this is a lot of work for the team. And the other one, the modernizations of divisions 24 and 25, that is related to the foods of special dietary use and infant foods. This is super important. With the recall in the US of infant formula, the shortage that ended up after, this created a lot of reflections and need for the modernization of Division 24-25. So this is really like a key priority for my colleagues in the Bureau of Nutritional Sciences. For my colleagues from the Bureau of Chemical Safety, like food packaging is something that is important. They receive funding from on plastics to really look at all the reduction of plastics and use of recycled plastics. They provided guidelines about the use of recycled plastic in food packaging. So these are work that is ongoing on the regulatory side within Health Canada. So on the international front, to your question, so we are in touch maybe on a regular basis, like at least my group, like with 8 probably different like mining regulators in the world on a regular basis. So we have like calls, we are closely collaborating with the FDA, the USDA, but also I want to highlight the leadership of Health Canada and the international front with ISO. We have my research scientists on ISO committees for like methods development, OECD for the novel foods, and the Codex. So me and my colleagues are head of the Canadian delegation on different Codex committee. I was talking about the Codex Committee of Food Hygiene in Kenya that I just talked about. And we are leading the revision we're tasked to, and we took the leadership to revise the guidelines for viruses, so the standards, the food standards, so the guidelines for viruses and also for Listeria, because we're leveraging the work that we have done with Listeria, and I will talk a bit more about this. So it's really and the international front is super important to really align, learn from best practices, harmonize, reducing barriers, because this is always a comment when we talk to industry, like how can you harmonize better with the other. And also, we cannot do everything, so we need to leverage the science. Like, so we just can't do everything. So this is why we really need to work together. But I'm focusing on international, but it's also nationally. Like, so with the provinces, we're doing the same thing nationally as well. I just wanted to mention that. On the research and surveillance, again, the foundation of our work, we have a research teams, and the proximity of the research teams with our evaluation and policymaker is really like, or when we do a risk, let's say a risk assessment, we have a need, so we just walk down the hall and we ask the scientists, like, can you start a project on this? Like, can we look at if how fast Listeria is growing on enoki mushrooms and stuff like that? So this proximity is really helping and filling gaps rapidly and to better inform our advice so it helps anticipate and respond to emerging risks. So we have labs working on potential like chemicals that might be impacting the food supply, et cetera, et cetera. The surveillance programs are doing verification of food available like in Canada, and also like helps in our advice to make sure that Canadians can make informed choices. Like the US speaker yesterday from the FDA, we have a Canadian version of the Total Diet Study, like it's a surveillance program, looking at microplastics, titanium dioxide, and PFAS. PFAS is quite trendy these days. AMR, antimicrobial resistance, climate change, and detection methods is also like areas of expertise where we worked on. And talking about detection methods, following the listeriosis outbreak in 2008, and the Weathery report and the need for faster detection methods, and when you look at pure microbiological detections and methods, like enrichment is always like taking a lot of time. So cutting the sample preparation is important. So we started the collaboration, one of my scientists with the National Research Council of Canada. So we built this partnership with physicists, kind of interesting, with microbiologists and physicists working together to really like develop a lab on a chip. So it's like a credit card. You can have a PCR. You can do your PCR detection methods on a credit card. And you can see in the bottom is called the round instrument is called a Power Blade, and it's like a PlayStation, and you change the games on it. So we have different chips for viruses and foodborne pathogens that is being developed, and everything is for sure. The purpose or the design was to be cheap. Cheap plastic devices can be automated, used by anyone, and and field deployable. So this was really like the original purpose of this. And just a story about the Power Blade. Our NRC partner received funding from the Canadian Space Agency, and the project was selected. So the Power Blade is going to the space station, the International Space Station, at the end of 2024 for testing the blood and urine of astronauts. So we leveraged the millions of dollars from the Canadian Space Agency to develop the Power Blade, and now we're adapting it for food safety, which is quite neat, and leveraging really our partners. And because of the design and the field deployability and the easy to use technology, but it's still the research stage, but still we just got new funding for the Department of Defense, working with the government of Nunavut and Cernak to deploy these in First Nations, testing game meat. And this is seen by the communities like really a game changer and investment in terms of Health Canada investing in the health of First Nations as well. But this is really interesting work that is going on. So the bread and butter of our work, the policy and standards, as I said, like we, colleagues from the Bureau of Chemical Safety working on food additive and contaminants, like looking at what's trendy, like everything related to titanium dioxide and the EU report, looking at aspartame is coming back, so looking at the safety of these products are like things that we're doing, looking at toxins, mercury in fish. And the food additive submissions, so we'll come out with a revised process for facilitating a checklist to make sure that when submissions are sent to Health Canada, they are complete and with technical instructions and guidance. This is coming on the food additive front. I have a slide on the Listeria policy. So this is a team, my team that worked like for a couple of years to update the Listeria policy in 2023. I'm sure a lot of you have been involved or using the basis of that Listeria policy in your day-to-day work. We work closely with the Public Health Agency and CFIA on the implementation of this policy, but we receive great feedback from industry and from internationally. A lot of international regulators are looking at that policy, and hopefully they will get inspired. And as I mentioned, we are leveraging all the work. Every decision in the update of this policy has been documented, scientifically sound. Everything is like the team did a fantastic work with this policy. And some experts, it's probably one of the most comprehensive Listeria policy like right now in the world. Another priority that we're working on is that might be of interest is the risk analysis for E. coli STEC in food. So we're finalizing, I would say, this risk analysis with 5 different objectives that are listed here to really do the foundational science work to develop after the future guidance on the control of STEC in Canada. So we looked at really looking at the characteristics. What are the characteristics, the molecular characterizations of those STEC that caused outbreaks in the past in Canada? So it's really having a Canadian context, looking at methodologies, ranking the food commodities that were involved in outbreaks with STEC, looking at interventions and risk management, really a comprehensive risk analysis to really look at changing our control and maybe moving away from serotyping, because right now the guidance is only on OY57, so really moving away from serotyping to really like targeting like molecular characterization of the virulence factors from the pathogens. So I have to talk about cellular agriculture. So this is something that we see a new trend. This is, to be clear, this is captured under the novel food regulation. So all cell ag products, cell culture meat, precision fermentation. So we just approve like milk protein in bacteria, or if you have like, I don't know, egg protein in yeast, or like these are precision fermentation products. This is all encompassed in the cellular agriculture, like I would say, definition for us. And we've been doing a lot of work I will answer the question right now. We haven't received yet a submission for a cellular product, so like in the US with the chicken, stuff like that. So I can share because we haven't received. If we had received one, I couldn't share this because it's confidential, but now we haven't received. We are having like meetings with companies, like pre-submission meetings, and a lot of conversations of people like, okay, I want to develop this product, like how does it work in terms of the regulatory process in Canada. We published a webpage on CELAC to really guide industry, international engagement. Really, we have like regular meetings on this topic, and we do internally like a scientific analysis, looking at the products out there, meeting with industry, what technology do you want to use, the scaffolding, the buffer, the cells being used, et cetera, to learn and to get ready when we get the first submission related to cellular agriculture. So we try to be proactive on that front. So last but not least, I need to talk about food safety education and outreach. If you remember on my first slide, I discussed about consumers being part of the shared responsibility of food safety. And in the last 5 years, since I came back as the director of the Bureau of Microbial Hazards, we really work hard on developing some initiatives for food safety education. And just to be clear, like when there's an outbreak, risk communication is with the Public Health Agency of Canada. During peacetime, what I call, like it's us that is proactive communication and advice to Canadians. So I want to talk about 3 projects that are going on right now. The first one is an online food safety course for healthcare professionals and educators. I then work with different partners and stakeholders and identify gap for these groups of health professionals to really train the trainer, and so they can train their patients and stuff like that. So really focusing on this. So we have 5 modules now being coded. So by the end of 2024, hopefully, or early 2025, this will become available for sure. The other interesting product is the food safety resource kits for school-aged children. 3 years ago, during the pandemic, with our marketing colleagues, we decided to change totally our approach in risk communication to retarget youth, to change behavior, because we had the traditional like targeting vulnerable population, targeting like at-risk groups, but it wasn't really like that successful. So we really decided to shift and really develop those resource kits for kids from 9 to 13. We are working with a company called Learning Bird their expertise is to develop like curriculum, and they did a gap analysis across the country in curriculum in school boards and stuff like that. There's a real gap in this age group from 9 to 13. So we're quite excited about this. So school, like right now, teachers across the country are testing those kits in classrooms. So we get the feedback at the end of May, and we'll make adjustments, and hopefully like these kits will be available online. People can download the resources and use them as they want. So we're not pushing further because education is a provincial jurisdiction. So it will be on the website, and teacher will be free to use our resources. Then the third and last project is the Safe Food Recipe Style Guide. So we are partnering with the US Food Safety Partnership who developed a style guide, and we adapted this style guide for Canada. What it is this is targeting like food bloggers, everybody that have recipes on their website or develop recipes, or any chef, is to really a guide to help them introduce food safety tips in recipes. And studies have shown that if you integrate food safety tips in the recipe, people will follow them more than, so wash your hands, cooking temperature, with leftovers, depending on the space you have. Like it's totally voluntary. Just adding 1 or 2 tips will be better than none. So this is why if you have recipes on your website, we'll be happy to collaborate or with this project. If you Google Health Canada, Safe Recipe Style Guide, so it was published like in February, like maybe like 2 months ago, online. And we are developing new tools and PDFs to promote the Seafood Recipe Style Guide. So it just came out. But it's quite an interesting, again, attempt to educate consumer and make sure that to change behavior, because it's not easy to change behavior on food safety. So conclusion. We are like food safety is super interesting, but it's also a complex environment. We need to work together. I know I'm from Health Canada, I'm for federal level, I'm the guy in Ottawa, so, but still super approachable and nice, so feel free to call me or send me an email, or like we can have a meeting and conversations. We are eager to learn because we want to be relevant. We want our policy to be implementable, because if we have a policy or guidance that doesn't make sense and nobody's using it, like we failed. So we want to make a change, but we want to make it with you and work with you and with our partners internationally, and we try to be more agile with the regulation that we have, but and we'll continue to make science as a priority for Canadians to make informed decisions. So I'll stop here, and thank you for your attention.
That was extraordinary. We had the benefit of meeting Petit Chien, which was
Next.
a gift for us all. Do you have time for some questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions from the floor? I've got loads if no one does. But
Excuse me. You can just like talk.
Hello, over here.
Okay. Hi.
My name's Kelsey Morwood. I'm a food service manager with Extendicare and long-term care. I just have a question about your online food safety course. Is that going to be the same course that's offered at the public health level, or is it a different kind of food safety course that you're offering?
It's different. So we created from scratch, but we try not to duplicate the other products. But yeah, so it will be different. So yeah.
So, for example, in long-term care, it's required that we need the food safety course. Would that be applicable for that, and would that fulfill that requirement?
We have the same questions because dietitians of Canada are also super interested, and it may be recognized for some association. I don't, right now, not, it's possible that maybe it could be recognized, so we can probably work with maybe associations and make sure that it's recognized as an official safety course. But right now, we're not there yet, so, but maybe we can have further conversations, but we know that it's a need, and yeah. But I know with nutritionists and dietitians of Canada, like I think we tried because it's part of the ongoing learning, so it might be added to this. So yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. This is Paula from Maple Lodge Farms. First off, thank you for the presentation and all the updates. You talked about PFAS being a hot topic and all the research going into it. Do you have any insight as to what Health Canada's position will be on PFAS?
Good question. I'm not the expert. I can put you in touch with the expert on this. I prefer not to. So I know we are looking at what's going on. My colleagues are looking at what's going on internationally, but then I know they've been quite busy on this and looking at the approach, what's done internationally. But in terms of positioning for us, I don't think it's a bit premature, and I won't be the best one to answer. But I can put you in touch with the right person. In 2 minutes, you will get the answer. So.
Ron Judge, Maple Lodge. A lot of research going on with regards to establishing threshold limits for allergens. Is that something that Health Canada is looking at, what the research that's being done globally?
I know some of our colleagues are looking at this, like the testing low levels of allergens and threshold. I know it's always been part of the conversation. I don't know when this will go out, or so again, same colleagues for the two questions, so we can put the people together. Sorry, I'm just the micro guy and the messenger. So. Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much. Hey, I'm Matt Morrison from Dairy Farmers of Canada. I'm just wondering about the dairy exemptions and vitamin D authorization, if you have any updates on the timeline for that.
No, I don't have any timelines for this because they... Yeah, we are like in an interesting situation right now, so we are looking at every files and every prioritization and core work. So this is where the timelines are all right now are being discussed in terms of priorities and resources available. And so we know that this will be worked on and has been worked on, but in terms of timelines, like, but I can put you also in touch with someone.
Martin, I have a question for you. So in the process of going through these pre-meetings with CellAg, scientists or companies or funders or what have you, they're predominantly hosted by Health Canada alongside ECCC. what I've seen is Health Canada and ECCC working together to address concerns. And I was wondering, on that topic, are the two agencies
Yep.
or ministries working closely together? They have aligned interests, but they have very different stakeholder perspectives.
Yeah. So the working group I was mentioning that we establish include Agriculture Canada, CFIA, and ECCC is part of the. Yeah, we are discussing with them the CPAR requirements and ECCC is there. In these meetings, the pre-submission meeting is more like explaining the regulatory process for Health Canada. So, but I know there's the Food Agriculture Organization, the FAO, is organizing a meeting in Toronto in October for companies, bringing regulators to explain to companies how it works. So they did one in, is it China last year, and was it the first one, maybe Israel, I don't know, like 2 years ago, but I think they are doing meetings. So I know they work with my colleagues with Agriculture Canada to organize this type of meeting to inform industry, okay, if you want to go in this business, this is what it is. And CFI will be there for the labeling part because the labeling of these products is under the responsibility of CFI. So for product representation issues and stuff like that. So yeah.
Excellent. Questions in the audience? This is an amazing opportunity. I encourage you, if you have any question, to.
If I have the answer, I have contacts, but I may not have all the answers, but I have contacts.
And you've got the person who can direct your question. That's powerful too. On your slide, you mentioned titanium dioxide, which was a really funny. I mean, Canada sort of swims between the EU and the US in a lot of ways. Were you involved in that process at all? Can you speak to our independent research in the face of two very different answers with our main?
Yeah, I think this is where agreeing to disagree sometimes is important. And I know we look at what the report, and I know my colleagues really, and the scientists, and having again the proximity of the research scientists really help in having filling data gaps to make sure, okay, is it really the issue that others are saying it is, and looking at the safety of these products. But the proximity and the report and the close relationship with the FDA as well really help in terms of reshaping, okay, what's our position on that? The EU is going that direction, what's really the case in Canada, and we have, it's just different, different perspective.
That's helpful, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our friend? Here we go.
I feel we need to at least ask some micro-related questions.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you were talking a little bit about the cutting-edge technology, the lab on a chip.
Yep.
So for the pathogen detection, would we be seeing these methods coming up on the compendium? How's the project working, and how does it move forward for us?
It's at the research stage right now, still the validation. Before to even be in the compendium, we're talking many years. This is not, still advancing quite fast, and the new funding will help accelerate. But we may see this in a community maybe before seeing this in a plant or a food plant. So, but this is the objective at one point with the NRC. This is the mandate of the National Research Council and the NRC partner to really commercialize at one point that technology, because it's quite impressive. But yeah, not in the short term, not tomorrow or next year for sure. So yeah, but the ultimate objective is, yes, we want this to be used somewhere. So for sure.
Anyone else? All right. Martin, thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Again.
I'm here until noon if you want to talk to me, so thanks. Thanks very much for the opportunity.